getting the pay to recording in progress. What do I do? Continue. Yeah, so I can answer questions about the business and about the non-union side of things, and some pertinent information there. I started off non-union. I was non-union for about 3 years and then decided to join the union. The reason I joined the union is because I started doing TV commercials, and I didn't get in this to do TV commercials. I wanted to be the next Mel Blanc. I wanted to do animation, and it took me several years to crack that nut. But what happened was, and this is kind of what I emphasized back last time we did this last year, is the market will start telling you things. So listen, if you're starting to book, look for a pattern. And see what the market is telling you. If you're booking certain kind of narration, well, then that's a strength of yours and you have to play to it. I started booking TV commercials. I didn't know why. I have a TV voice. I don't have a radio voice. It was just that I sort of naturally was able to do that conversational read. Of course, I worked with coaches, and I worked on my technique, and I still check in with coaches once in a while. I have 2 of them. But what happened was, and some of you may have had this experience, you do a TV commercial and it's like $500 or $1,000, which is nice to have in your pocket, but 3 years later, it's still running. And I talk to people who are in the union, and you can get residuals and you can make a much better living. So that's why I went into the union. I wanted to get just sort of like that in a nutshell. It's not like one is better than the other. If you're doing narration, you want to stay non-union. But I was, going back, I started off, I was teaching college here in Toronto and also in New York. I lived in New York City for many years. Then I decided I wanted to be a speech pathologist. So I went back to school. Right around the time my twins were born, I decided it would be a good idea to teach, have infant twins, and also do a 2-hour commute to do my master's work every day. So I don't know how I did it, but I did speech pathology for a couple of years, and I loved my patients. I was working in hospitals, in ICUs, and it was fabulous work. But the hospital environment, the corporate environment, the HR structure, it was not for me. And there are a lot of unhappy people in hospitals. It's a very stressful environment. And you might find this funny. I took my wife out to dinner to a very nice place. And I said, honey, I don't want to be a speech pathologist anymore. She's like, really? I said, and our twins were like 3. I want to be a voice actor. And I'll never forget it. She had a fork full of food, and it got this far, and she put it down. And I had, some savings, and I went for it. And I was very fortunate in that it was good timing, but it wasn't good timing on my part. It was just that my particular strengths, conversational reads, they're still very much in demand, but that was sort of like the it thing. And so I got a non-union agent, and I worked with him for a couple of years, and he was great, and he's still a friend. But I had to leave because he is, well, it's Roger King, right, Siobhan? PN agency. It's Toronto, Montreal, New York. And I had to get a union agent, and Roger King is a doll. Roger King is awesome. And PN agency, you want to look it up, pna.com, I think it is. pnagency.com. No, it's pnagency.com. Anyway, does that bring us full circle? Like,
I think so. It certainly generated some questions in the chat.
Okay, let's get to the questions. Let's get to the questions.
Yeah, I think it's very funny if you're like, I want to be a voice actor. It's just like At this point, it's like, ooh, are you saying that you want to be a, flamenco dancer? What's happening here? So okay, let's just. All right, my headphones are wacky. So I'm just going to start with Amber, who's asking, can you speak more about why narration is better non-union?
There's just more work. It's narration jobs are usually cast a different way. Why that is, I don't know. If you're in the union, here it's ACTRA. We have a reciprocal agreement in the United States. It's SAG-AFTRA. So when I work there, it's that. But it's a different model. So when I get work, it's agencies send out what are called breakdowns to the agents, and then the agents put forward the talent that they think are best for a certain job. And most of the narration, all audiobooks, pretty much, or the definitely the lion's share of audiobooks are non-union. I can't tell you why that is. It's just evolved that way. There's just much more work. If you want to do narration, if you want to do medical, you want to do corporate orientation, you want to do documentaries, then you're probably going to be just sticking with the non-union game. And I know non-union voice actors, now they've been at it for 20 years, but they, some of them, they make six figures. You can do really well non-union work. The difference is, when I was killing it non-union, and you catch fire, and then you're cold, and you're hot, and you're cold. When I was hot, I book like 150 things a year, and it's $200 here. If you want to do something for $100, do something for $100. It adds up. If I'm on fire in the union, I might book 10 or 15 new things per year. So it's a different model.
Were you able to understand non-union contracts?
Say that again.
There's a
Sorry?
question about, yeah, there's a question about non-union contracts and
Non-union contracts.
yeah, are they more complex than union contracts? Are they more difficult to navigate?
I never came across any contracts in non-union.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't even have a contract with my present agent. We just have a handshake deal. As she says,
Yeah.
why do we need a contract? If you don't want to be with me and I don't want to be with you, then we'll go our separate ways. But can you, whoever's asking that, can you perhaps be more specific? In union, all the contract work is done by the client and by the signatory. So, and I don't want to get into all that. So
Yeah.
I've never dealt with it. But if
Okay.
you want to be more specific, if you have something to add to that, then please do, and we'll get back to it right away.
Awesome. Kimberly, drop it in the chat if you want to follow up. I'm also seeing a question from Bruce. We're just staying on this track right now, my friends. Bruce is saying, is it okay for union voice actors to also do non-union work?
That's a tricky situation. I mean, the simple answer is no. And it's like any union, they're going to look at you as a scab. In the US, you have the ability to do both. You can declare what's called FICOR. And that means there's legislation, there are laws in place that say you can't tell me where and how I can work in my field. So you can do that. You can do FICOR. It just depends where you are. If you're in, say, New York or LA, they'll blacklist you and you just won't get any work through the union, because they're really not happy with it. I'm just going to say this as put it out there. It's up to you. People do, if they're union and they're not working and they need to pay the bills and eat and stuff, which is good. They'll do non-union work under another name. I'm not advocating that. I'm just saying it happens. Um, but in the US, yeah, you can declare FICOR and do both.
It's it's pretty complicated. Yes, in the actor world as well, right? For the stage, it's pretty complicated too. It could mean that if you're in the union, your opportunities could be limited for whatever reason, right? Like it's a really
Definitely.
personal, like it's case by case for like what's going on, what kind of work you're getting, um, what kind of work you could, what kind of opportunities have shown themselves to you. I mean, I think, it's a personal choice and people do it or choose not to do it for a lot of different reasons.
And
Um,
if you're doing like high profile stuff, like you get a national commercial or something where they're going to hear your voice all over the place, then they might catch you. And if the union catches you, they'll boot you out. You're done.
um, James, are large gigs like that, do they tend to be union gigs or no?
There's both. There's lots of work in commercial that's non-union. It pays less, but you might book many, many more commercials. So it's just six of one, half dozen of the other. Um, there's lots of work for union and commercial as well. It just depends on the client, whether they want to go with a union actor or non-union. A lot here in Toronto go with union. Um, it's not that the best of the best are any better. The top-notch non-union and elite non-union and union voice actors are on par. You know, they're top-notch talent. The difference with the union is that it's curated. So the bottom end or that bar is a lot higher. You do wind up with a lot of people trying to get into voiceover that just aren't any good at it. And that's nobody here. Because you don't get this far with Edge if you have absolutely no ability whatsoever. So
It's true.
we're all past that mark for sure.
So, Dina is asking, I have a friend who has a well-known manager and is being asked to accept jobs before they'll reveal fees and usage. Is that common now? That's not my experience with agents and other services.
No, it's not common. That sounds pretty shady to me. That's just my response to that. It sounds shady. I've never ever been asked to accept a job without knowing what I'm going to get paid and a little bit about it.
James, how would you respond to a manager who gave you this kind of proposition?
Well, are we talking manager or agent? Because they're different things.
Mm,
Um,
she's following up.
uh,
Manager.
it depends. If that person wants money from you, um, I would turn around and run away as fast as you can. Having said that, though, there are some, there's more and more we're seeing people paying agents a retainer. But this is an established agent. I mean, this is somebody who's got a track record and, is part of an agency. Um, some of these people want $1,000 or $1,500 a month in order for you to get opportunities. I just wouldn't do that. If it came down to that, I'd move on from voiceover, or I'd go out on my own. You don't have to have an agent. You don't have to have a manager. Agents don't get you work. They get you opportunities. My agent gets me auditions. That's what she does. And she makes sure that everything is legit and it's worthwhile. So, an agent or a manager should make nothing. If you make nothing, it's a commission-based model, and that's the only way I would work.
Do you uh just for folks in case people are like trying to follow and feeling a little bit confused, James, can you just like tell us the difference between an agent and a manager or a management company, just so we
A
know?
management company is going to manage your career in terms of in terms of, branding you, in terms of, it's they're not getting you necessarily getting you auditions. They're not plugged into that agent network. They're managing your career as a talent, if that makes sense. um it's not a traditional agent agent talent relationship. It's something entirely different. I don't have a manager. I don't need one.
Mm.
It's an a I don't need a manager. I need a good agent. But having said that, you can work without an agent. Lots of people do. You can have multiple agents in the United States. One thing I will say about finding an agent, don't even try until you have booked some work and you've made some money. So as I always say, and Carlos heard this before, and whoever else is, I can't see, there are other people who may have worked with me before, but I always say, like, unless you can sit across the table from you and see how you can make money working with you right away, you don't have anything for an agent. So wait until you have that. Wait until you book some work. Wait until you can go to this agent and say, look, you can make commission off me, get me more opportunities. That's really all it boils down to. And it's a big world, but voiceover is kind of like a small little community, in that you might be approaching the same agents. If you get a rejection, you might be approaching them again later down the line. You only get one chance to make that first impression. Okay, so knock their socks off.
James, moving on to some tech, some home studio stuff. Is it a good idea to keep your microphone covered when not in use, to keep dust and other bad stuff from messing with it? Do you?
No, I don't bother with that. I mean, that's an AT4040. It's 20 years old, works great. This here, well, I pull it over, get the guitar out of the way, this is Sennheiser 416, and it's a great mic, and it's never been back in the box since I bought it. So no, unless you're in a really, if you've got a dusty environment, if there's an issue with that, say from somebody's doing drywall, then yeah, absolutely. But otherwise, no.
But James, you're not even 20 years old, so how could you have a microphone that's 20 years old?
I
That's
just turned 20
okay.
many
So
years ago. You're hilarious.
so Mel thinks I'm sweet. Thank you. So okay. There's some questions about animation,
Mm.
which I feel like I could send this to you. Would it be better for someone who's working on animation to be good at more voices or great at a few?
I love this question. Um, Play to your strengths. Play to your strengths. Range for the sake of range is going to dilute your talent. It's going to dilute or subtract from your strengths. There are people that work in narration, commercial, promo, animation, video games, who do one or two things, and they do them really, really, really well. That's the important thing. It's important to, speaking specifically to animation, it's important to explore your range, but it's the most important thing to know about animation, especially these days, has been gravitating more and more toward more natural voices. They don't want cartoony voices. What they want is somebody who can really get into a character and bring that character to life. So do some scene study, do some character work. That's the most important thing if you're in animation or you want to get into animation. Mel Blanc is the king still. He's been dead for many, many years, but I mean, those characters are alive. Bugs Bunny is alive. How did he do that? They all have their own little ticks and mannerisms and little catchphrases and things like that that really, really bring them to life. If you can do a lot of funny voices, if you can get up here and, put it in the mask, or you can go down here and get down in your chest and be a bad guy. I mean, that's great, but make sure that the character is the focus. Okay. You're bringing that character to life. If you can add a unique voice to it, great. But you're going to get much more response from doing a few things, doing them well, and really trying to bring a character to life.
I think this is important for whatever, genres of voiceover folks are working in. Like, how we talked about this last time, you submit a few takes and you're like, oh, which take would you like when you're actually working with a client? And you might sort of approach it stylistically a few different ways. For me, I actually have like my different stylistic approaches to takes I'm doing, even with some like, internal narration. Those are still actually like characters that I have. Like my more like millennial upspeak is like a character who like has a vibe. And then my like, I know everybody's like, okay, Siobhan, we know you do that. But then, but I have these I'll include these, there's like a softer, slower paced one. And I imagine her life to be really different from the millennial upspeak life of
Sure.
the takes that I'm, and I think that's kind of what James is sort of speaking to, is that if you're like, I can do a voice, I don't think that that's super helpful. Like everybody can do a voice, including my 4-year-old niece. She can do a lot of voices, Is she creating rich, developed characters beyond these voices?
Well,
And I think that that's sort of what James is speaking to, is like, what does it mean to do a lot of voices, and who are these characters, and do they have any sort of narrative? Like when we do animation demos here at Edge, we work on the arc of the journey of each character, each little spot you have. There has to be someone there, or something, whether it's an animal or a ethereal creature. Like there's like, you're looking for the depth behind what this voice is.
okay. And absolutely 100%. And you mentioned characters, and Siobhan, I've heard your stuff, and you're really good. She's excellent. But I would argue that millennial upspeak and the other characters you do aren't characters. They're not characters. They're parts of you. They're parts of your personality, or they resonate with parts of your personalities. Those things that are just easy to do, the things that just come to you. You can give little stylistic differences to, but they're part of you. They're resonating with aspects of your personality, so they have that background. They're real. They're real. So it comes to you very easily. And we all have those, and make note of those. I would ask everybody to make note of the things, the reads that come to you really easily. And there are obviously different styles of reads and different energy levels and different intentions. What's the motivation? Why is the character saying saying that line? But make note of the things that are really easy for you, and play to those strengths. And also, and this is really useful when a coach pointed it out to me a long time ago, is you can combine those things. You can take read A that's really easy, that's got maybe it's got a lot of fry, and it's kind of like this, and you can make it really friendly. Your other read is your guy or gal next door, but your guy or gal next door can talk like this. So they're not locked into a specific intention or a specific energy level. You can blend them. but stick to your strengths. Don't try and do things or be things that you aren't. Authenticity is the service we provide. It doesn't matter what genre it is. You will get hired if you are authentic. That's it. It's amazing how much, people can tell, they can hear what's real and what isn't, what's put on and what isn't. And it's the stuff that's real and authentic and part of you and has some thought behind it. That's the stuff that's going to get their attention. Right. So always be speaking to someone, a friend, a real person in your mind. Create a context. It's that stuff. It's not how good your voice sounds. It's not how articulate you are. It's not that you can put on a funny voice or a dialect. It's that it's authentic. Authenticity is what they're looking for. They're looking for you. So I'm at the point now where I don't really read the specs. If I'm up for an audition, I just do my thing. And obviously there's little shifts I can make to, get the energy level or what they're trying to do, get a sense for that. But then I just do what I do, and either they are going to like it or they won't. Okay. But don't try and, the worst thing you can do is try and think what it should sound like and imagine what you think they want to hear and try and do that. That's the quickest departure from authenticity, I know. And that's the easiest and quickest and most efficient way to not get hired and never make any money. So it's you they're looking for.
I actually I think that this is a really good sort of tying in a lot of themes that we often talk about. Like, yes, they're always asking for authenticity. They're always saying not announcery, right? They want like your human experience.
Non-announcery, absolutely. I mean, I didn't even know that was a word, non-announcery, until I started doing voiceover. Yeah, absolutely. That's more and more what they're looking for. That millennial read you're talking about, that's it right now. Listen to commercials, listen to particularly female reads. They're getting younger and there's lots of fry. Note that, right? Look at trends, right? If you can do a younger read with lots of fry, then go for it. And if you can't, then don't. There are other things you can do. Sorry, Siobhan, I kind of cut you off there.
No, I think it's good. It sort of makes me think about like performance and like, so I'm a theater maker and I create characters, and I have this character that is like a gamer, like she's a video gamer girl. And people are like, "Oh, is that so weird for you?" And it's like, I don't really care about video games, but if I did, I would be like this girl. Like that's what I would be like. So I think James is sort of speaking to that end of like, it's true. Like you're creating these characters for your different reads, your different takes, your different voices, styles for animation, but it actually does come from a place that is still authentically you. And to that point, James, there is a question about is it smart to take acting classes along with voiceover so that you have more experience? Yeah.
Absolutely. Do scene study, take acting classes, do improv. I hate improv. Okay. But I forced myself to do it. Okay. Because I was doing these animation auditions and they're really stressful sometimes. You walk in, and there's like 9 people there, and there's the showrunner up from LA, and there's the big time casting director, and holy cow, oh no. And then they say, yeah, that thing we got you to prepare. Yeah, we're not doing that anymore. Do this. And, for me, it was really stressful. So I did improv for year. And I had some fun, but there are people that love it, and you may love it. I hated it. As someone said to me, it's like eat that big fat hairy spider because nothing worse is going to happen to you after that. So once I did the improv, I'll tell you very quickly, the first time I did improv, and this was 5 years ago, 6 years ago. So I was already a working voice actor. And the first time they said, okay, James, and I forget her name, James, Mary, up you go. All right, you're this, you're that. Here's your situation. You know how it works. And she was lovely, veteran actor, um, uh, theater. And she just lobbed me a grapefruit, like the best opening line ever. It was great, and I corpsed, is what we call it. I went, and all I could see was like 15 or 16 people in a semicircle looking at me. I'm like, yeah. It was the worst feeling ever. And I finally just had to go, it was Kate Ashby, and she's fantastic. And I said, I got nothing. And I'll never forget, I was looking out at all the other people in the group, and there was this one woman, well, was looking at me like this. Because it's so uncomfortable. It's like that moment when you're at a wedding and someone says something, there's the speech that's kind of like really off. It's like really uncomfortable. It's that feeling. But they helped me through, and I got used to it, and then I had some fun. But the point is, like, even after working as a voice actor for several years, I had plenty to learn. And I was trying to move from well, I do still do commercial, but I wanted to do animation. And it took me several years. And it's finally, when I did the improv, I'd go back to do those auditions, and they weren't scary anymore. They weren't scary anymore. I had some experience of thinking on my feet and working under that pressure. And what's the worst that can happen? You give a sucky take. So what? You don't get the gig, whatever, right? It's important to take acting lessons. Yes, absolutely. Do some scene study, do some improv.
Yeah, and sometimes just if we're in the times where there's showcases where you perform in theaters, just be careful how many friends you invite to your improv showcase, because they may be over, they may not want to go, and that's there's a lot of there's a lot of emotional reactions to improv and improv troops and that sort of thing. I feel that I've certainly done my time at seeing my friends' showcases. I'm like, love you guys, but I can't do this anymore. But I will also say people have, there's a lot of reactions in the chat. I would say too, there of course are lots and lots of, Mr. Andrews included, VO coaches who have acting backgrounds, who can speak to you from those perspectives too. So there's quite a lot of crossover in this world of voice acting that talks about character, that talks about, James. I have worked with James, who has helped me with motivation, helped me understand why I'm talking to someone about a hamburger when I am a vegan. Like, he's like, just, we got to find a way. Because if you hate it and don't care, you're not going to book the job. And so, like, get over it, Siobhan. You know what I mean? And you have to find some emotional place to do that. So that's
I do.
super.
I
Yeah.
do want to add that I started in voiceover. When I started in voiceover, I did not have any formal acting training. I had lots of experience as a musician, being on stage in front of people, but I didn't have any acting training. I just had some natural ability, and I was just winging it. So, I don't have this huge acting background going into voiceover. It kind of
He's
happens
just this.
simultaneously, so you can do it.
Yeah. I mean, James is just a natural talent, you guys. That's just part of it sometimes too. But okay. So,
We all have some natural ability. Identify it. Know your instrument. Play to your strengths. I'm looking at a question here. Do you coach auditions? Yes, I do.
yes, let's go. I want to pop up to, okay, from Anne. Oh, we're sort of skipping to a different subject, which I think is important. Um, James, are you doing more of your own engineering these days as we are recording more at home instead of at a studio? Or
Oh,
do you record and send waves and MP3s and let them deal with it, or what's going on?
all of it. Yeah, well, the last year and a half. Let me see. Have I gone to a live audition? No. Some of them are live. I did one the other day that was live audition. You got Zoom, and you're either recording the take, they got Zoom on your phone or headphones or however you want to set it up, or they're recording it. And if they're recording it, then yeah, that's going to require some more engineering skills. So what's been happening is most of my auditions are just sending my agent MP3s. So I'm just doing what you guys are doing. And I love the live auditions because I got to know the casting directors. There's like 4 or 5 casting directors that I worked with for years here in Toronto. And I don't see them anymore. It sucks. I like to go to a studio and say hi and see the casting director and the engineer. And, it just, even walking in and seeing, all the other guys I'm going to compete with for this job. I don't know if it's going to come back. It's too easy for people to sit in their basements or their living rooms on Zoom, put on a nice shirt and, you're wearing jammies on your butt. It's like, I don't know if it's going to come back. But what has been happening is, and some of you may have had this experience, you might be doing a live directed session and you're sending a broadcast quality signal through software, IPDTL, also known as IPDIDL or Source Connect. So I've been doing TV for Bell and Lincoln for some time, and it's all been right over there for the last year and a half. But here's the thing that annoys me is that the client is now saving the money on studio because they're not booking one. Right? But I'm not getting any more. And they're relying on I've got my nice Sennheiser and my nice SSL interface and Pro Tools and a nice computer, and that costs money. And I've also got a nice environment here that I finally got my own studio in my basement. And I got Source Connect, and that requires some engineering skills. And it also cost me $700 for a perpetual license. So this is one of the things I'm going to bring up with the union and voice committee when I get a chance here, is they got to start paying for this stuff. And if you're working non-union, charge them a studio fee. Absolutely. Maybe it's not the full 150 or whatever an hour, but something. You have a skill. It's worth it. I can see people here in their studios and, and putting my glasses on. There's some nice microphones. And it's cost money. Shmuel, hello. hello to Tel Aviv.
Yes, Alexis.
We worked together recently, and he's built a studio.
That's like, you tell them, James.
Of cost money. Charge them.
Yeah. I want to just sort of pop around to just really quickly. I feel like I could do this, but James is actually the speech pathologist. Can you explain, because folks were unclear, what is vocal fry? Like what's going on? What is it? What does it sound like?
Vocal fry. It's when you're a little kid and you're going, "Mother, I am a robot. I do not need to eat dinner." What's happening? Vocal fry is you're reducing the airflow, right? That's why it's quiet. You could whisper, which means you're taking your vocal folds and separating them. Has everyone seen what they look like? Have you looked at the anatomy? Yes, look at the anatomy. Know a bit about the physiology. The anatomy is the structure. The physiology is voice, or in this case, vocal fry. And it's just less pressure, air pressure, right? You're generating less airflow. And so they're kind of just like, you're approximating the vocal folds, and you're not sending enough air through to fully phonate. So they're not vibrating as much. That's all that's happening. We don't have vocal folds. They're also known as vocal cords. They're also known as the glottis, hence glottal stop. We have this valve in our throats. It's a valve, and it's not there for speech. Every other animal has a way to close the valve and protect the airway. That can happen reflexively. If you remember when you're a kid, dad's bombing down the interstate and you want to put your head out the window at 70 miles an hour and suddenly you can't breathe. That's those vocal folds, just like the doctor hitting your kneecap, those vocal folds have slammed shut because that's too much pressure, and your brain goes, protect the airway. So they can close and seal it off. When they open like this, that's respiration. And you can open them further for heavy respiration if you're exerting yourself physically. We have just evolved, we've learned over millennia to approximate these little strips of tissue, which are about that long, and they'll vibrate. This is just raw sound. If you take the head off, it's just going to go, it would sound horrible. The voice is created, the voice quality is created through, your the unique shape of your pharynx and your nasal area, the skull, the bones vibrate. It all creates resonance. And then what we do up here is we articulate this into speech. Right?
James, what is a glottal stop? Can you explain that again, just for people who may be like,
you hear about, as voice actors, we got to know what glottal stops are. If you don't know anything else about phonetics, and I encourage you to take my phonetics webinar the next time we run it, because if you haven't, you will learn something. You'll learn what glottal stops are for sure. We need to know what glottal stops are because we need to know whether we're going to allow that in the read or whether we're going to actually phonate and articulate and aspirate, release the T, for example. Mountain. Okay. We don't say mountain. Nobody says mountain. Nobody says Manhattan. But you may say Manhattan if you are doing an audio tour or you're doing a more formal read. You may say mountain. The glottal stop is mountain. Glottis, stop. Think of it like this. We have groups of stop consonants. Your stop consonants are also known as plosives. Those are the ones that will blast the air into the diaphragm of your microphone and make that horrible sound. So I'll actually show you something. This is the way I record. Oblique. So I've got the screen, but I'm also blowing the air, the plosives, the P's, T's, K, G, P, T, K, B, D, G, P, T, K, B, D, G. The only difference between the first three and the second three is voice off, voice on. P, T, K, B, D, G. They're made exactly the same place. P, T, K, B, D, G. The only difference is whether your voice is on or off. But those will blast air, they'll slam the diaphragm of the microphone and make that horrible thump. So I record this way, always. The glottal stop is another stop consonant. You're stopping the air here for P and B, stopping the air here, alveolar ridge, tongue, T, D, and then the velum, K, G. The velum is the soft palate. Run your tongue back, it's bone, it's bone, it's bone, and then it's soft, right toward the end. That's your velum, that's your soft palate. That's where you make K and G, because you take that velum, it drops down, and it meets the base of the tongue. Why am I telling you all this? Because you asked about a glottal stop. Glottal stop is another stop consonant. You're just making the stop at the level of the glottis. You're closing and opening the vocal folds, right? To stop the air and start it again. It's takes less energy. Speaking takes energy, right? You ever have you got a headache, or you got a bad cold and you feel like crap, or you're really tired, you don't want to talk because it takes energy. This takes the least energy. It involves the fewest muscles. So that's why we say mountain in standard American English. Mountain, Manhattan. There's thousands of them. But depending on the level of formality, you need to be able to decide whether you're going to say mountain or mountain. And then you have to decide whether it sounds good. And you have to finesse it. And you have to make it sound natural. And that's where your talent, your ear comes in. Someone said something about the music of the copy or the language, or finding the, that's wonderful. Language is music. It's got prosody, Prosody. I love that word. You just gotta have the feel. And every language has its own unique prosody, its own unique signature. Anyway, I could go on and on and on and on. Take my webinar. I don't know when.
Yes. Right. We should plan it for the autumn, perhaps. But so James teaches a class with us called The Science of Speaking Like a Pro, which really gets deep into the folds of this material. I wanted to sort of touch on a few things. First of all, Michael said glottal stop and take my money, which was very funny. But also the first thing a question came about regarding the vocal fry. Is that more of a female voice sort of, is that preferred in women's, like, have you would you say you've seen that where women are doing that more? I can certainly say that I do it, like, as I get more, try to speak more naturally and more authentically, the fry does happen, which our friend Johnny Heller is like, stop it, that's not a nice sound.
Yeah, and
Stop
Johnny,
making that sound.
yeah, Johnny does a lot of Johnny's audiobooks, right? If your character, you might want to give a character a voice like this to differentiate from all the other characters you have to do. It's hard, my hat, my glasses go off to you audiobook people. I mean, I'm a commercial guy. If I show up at a gig and I'm like, 2 pages, this is going to be a long day. Carla, my hat goes off. She's just finished, I don't know, how many, 3 books, like, but full length. Like, this is hours and hours and hours just to listen to. And if you're doing 3 to 1, in terms of, it takes you this long to actually record it and edit it, if it's that long to listen to, then that's pretty good. So you're talking 30, 40, 50, 60 hours of work.
James, so Scott is asking, did having my tonsils and, ooh, this is a word I do not know.
Adenoids. I saw this.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Does that affect your voice?
Huh.
Do I need to compensate somehow?
Gosh, no. This was 4th grade. Oh. Unless you've got an issue with your voice, your speaking voice is your speaking voice. I've never had my tonsils out. If I had my tonsils out, yes, it would change my voice ever so slightly. Because why? Because this is a different shape now. It's like changing your fingerprint. So it might enrich your voice. That's why Barbara Streisand never had a nose job. True story. She thought about it, and then somebody said, this could change your voice. If you're Barbara Streisand, you don't mess with that. So has it affected your voice? No, your voice is your voice, and it's been that way since 4th grade. You don't have to compensate at all. No, should be fine.
We're getting on. I know we started late, so I want to kind of wrap now though, and I just wanted to, like, just because we
Well,
have James and yes.
I'm sorry. I mean, I'm happy to go a little longer if you are.
Yeah, I'm honoring the kind of time with which we started while also wanting to honor your
I
time.
want
But
to get to, I want to try and get to a few more questions if that's all right. I don't want people to.
okay, yeah, yeah. Well, here's one is, do you record in the morning, midday, or afternoon? And does that matter or impact, and is there some kind of physiological reason for with which you might choose one of those times of the day?
Not really. If I have something that I'm trying to get a little bit lower down, and do like Chevy Silverado, which I don't like, I can do that well, but there's thousands of guys out there that's what they do and they do it better. So I don't typically get those things. But yeah, if I want to do something lower, I'll probably do it in the morning. But if you do vocal warm-ups, like singers warm-ups, it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter morning, noon, night. The only thing is if you're warming up your voice by just getting up naturally and speaking naturally, you get to a certain point midday where it's fully warmed up and it might sound different in the morning. Evening, no difference unless you're tired. But if you do singers warm-ups, like all that stuff, your voice is going to be fully warmed up and it's going to sound same in the morning as it does midday and evening.
There's another question. I'm not really sure what it is. Stu is asking, what about improving on your auditions? Only after one as written take or whenever you feel it. Improv it.
What?
This is why I love these people. They're helping me out. They're like, they're like, it's improving and not improving, which is very funny. Okay, so what about improving on your auditions? Improvising. Wait, can you, do you understand what's going on?
Okay, Stu.
You
Uh,
need
what
to
about improvising on your auditions? Absolutely, I do that all the time. All the time. If I want to do a lead in, I want to, I got a cast of characters. They're family and friends. They don't know, but I've been using them for years. And I'll go, well, I don't call my friends by their names, like, dude, right? Do that lead in. And then this is particularly if you're having trouble finding a line. You could be fine with first line, second line, whatever, but there's one line in there that just like clangs. It doesn't sound authentic. You're not finding it. It's awkward. Then improv around it and say that line wild by itself until you get it. You will get it. You will get it. But you don't have to do perfect takes. If you're recording yourself, you can record the line, 15 times, pick the one you like, slot it in. But I'll throw in ad libs, like, and these kind of things that we throw into speech that's not in the copy. Words like, um, and that'll help me find the line. And then when I have it, just take them out. But absolutely, you can improv, but you can't do that in the recording. You have to obviously say the copy the way it's written. Good question.
So just to be clear, you do you'll I think you should have a new class called Improv to Improve. Actually, we can credit the chat for this because they're very funny. They said you have to improve to you need to improve on
Oh,
improv or do
caffeine
some
is good.
improv to
Drugs are
improve. But that's hard to prove. So, just to be clear, do you do these kinds of improvisations? I know actually I've worked with James, who has coached me on like doing some of this improv to help me kind of get into the character and into this space for the copy. Do you do this kind of work and then record the audition copy as written, and that's what you submit?
good. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
you asked, yeah.
just want to clarify. I just
No,
like, I just want to make sure.
no, I'll do, but record everything, because you never know when you're going to nail a line, and it's just never going to happen that way again, and you love it. So just keep record on and keep recording. But yeah, I can improv around a line, and if it's clean enough, I can keep that line and take the improvised bits out, just edit them out, cut it together.
Schmel wants you to know that it was him who did the improve to improv and improv. That's all him. He just wanted you to know. He's like, tell James, tell James it was me. Is what he's saying.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're almost at 10 past. So I just thought, I was hoping, James, with all of this that we're talking about, we've talked about, we're talking about auditions, we're talking about, your actual takes when you're working with clients. And one of my favorite things, when you and I have worked together, it's been forever. I actually need to book you. But one thing that we have talked about, just not in this session yet, is something that you do to warm up or to prepare to get yourself in the space to record, whether it's auditions or your actual gig or whatever it is. And I'm wondering if you could impart some wisdom on how you get into the zone before, to conclude our session today.
I get into the zone. Well, I mean, there's emotional zones and so on. But I mean, physically to warm up, I don't warm up my voice to speak. I don't typically do those vocal warm-ups we were talking about. I do if I'm gonna, try do something for a video game or animation. That's singer stuff. The singer's warm-ups, and you can just Google that and just do those. But I warm up the articulators. I warm up the muscles in the face and the lips and the tongue by doing tongue twisters and stretch, contract, stretch, contract, stretch, contract. That'll get the blood flowing. Your cheeks will flush. That's good. I do things like rubber baby buggy bumpers, rubber baby buggy bumpers, rubber baby buggy bumpers. And the worst tongue twister in the world in the English language, which is the sixth sheep sick. It has it's an absolutely horrifying tongue twister. But those will warm up your articulators, so you're good to go. It's just getting the blood flow going. It's just like warming up any other muscles. Doing a stretch before a run. That's like stretching your quad. I know we're over time, but I want to show you the macetor massage. This is a wonderful, wonderful thing. I used to do this with people when I was a speech pathologist. Look at the anatomy. I mean, obviously everything's connected. You have a bone right here. Did you know? It's a horseshoe-shaped bone. It's called the hyoid. You can feel it. There's mine. It's the only bone in the human body that is not articulated with another bone. It sits in a saddle of muscles. If you're tense, if you're stressed, if you've been driving around Manhattan all day, that's going to affect your voice. Absolutely. So you want to keep this stuff loose. This is a sternocleidomastoid, that muscle that we all see when we turn our heads. Sternum, cleido, clavicle, collarbone, mastoid, sternum. It's connected to here. You have a masseter muscle. That's the big muscle here. That's your chewing muscle, your jaw muscle. We store so much tension and the stress of daily living in this muscle. That's why so many of us grind our teeth at night. And you might wind up with TMJ, which is a really nasty thing, clicking jaw. And so can even give you headaches because it's articulated here. You get that headache here. That's a muscle tension headache. So you're gonna love this. That bony part of your wrist, you just feel that bone there. All right, this is where you're gonna put it. About an inch from your ear, right in the belly of that muscle. And this is a muscle that's extremely powerful. It can generate hundreds of pounds of force. Okay, but we store so much tension there, you know, and in the neck as well. But of course, sternocleidomastoids is all connected. You take that bony thing and you get it right on the thickest part of that muscle. And you let your jaw loosen, just let it hang and go circles. Dig in. It might be a little uncomfortable. You know, it might be like that deep Rolfing massage that hurts.
James,
Okay.
James, is this where the jaw hinges? Is that what you're talking
Exactly.
about? Yeah, okay.
It's the fattest part of the muscle. You're right on the hinge. You're going forward with, you know, robust pressure, like push. And then you're going backwards and you can feel that bone clunking over the muscle. Okay, dig in now. Feels great. I even feel looser down here, even though I didn't touch it. That is a wonderful, it's a game changer for me. I just do this often, especially when I'm going to do some extensive work, like a longer session. So just those warm-ups that I showed you with the tongue twisters and the masseter massage.
I really appreciate that because I think getting it, life is so chaotic and honestly stressful. And I feel that if, when you step into the booth to do your thing, if there is somewhat, I don't want to say routine or ritual, whatever words, mean something to you, that there is some sort of methodology with which you use to get yourself into the space of like, this is where I'm at and what I'm doing. I think James has one of the strongest senses of that of a voice actor that I know.
Thank you.
So yeah, yeah.
Another thing is, you've really got to approach every audition. Now, let me also add, you don't have to be in competition with the millions of other people that are trying to get into voiceover, especially in the last year since the pandemic and all that stuff. Uh, you don't have to be in competition with all of them. The better you get, the smaller the number of people that you're actually competing with will be. But here's the thing, most of us are not doing live auditions. So you're doing MP3s from home. You've got to approach that audition. You're alone in your little studio, wherever it is, because we work in a vacuum. I mean, I'm down here all day long. I feel like one day I'm going to turn into like Gollum or something. I'm down in my cave, right? Oh my gracious. But you got to approach this thing like it's the job. The audition is the job. You audition for a living. Every once in a while, someone gives you money for it. Your job is auditioning. So the audition is the gig. And here's the thing, you've got to psych yourself up so that you're a rock star. You got it. I've got this gig. This is mine. Get yourself into that mindset. There's always going to be that voice going, yeah, but you suck. And we can get halfway through a read and the voice goes, wow, that line was really terrible. Quit. You stink. We all have that. Why? I don't know. I have that still, right? Every once in a while, well, that sucked. So here's what I do. And if you've worked with me before, you maybe have heard this, but I love this. Anthony Hopkins. Did I ever tell you this, Siobhan? The
I
Anthony
don't
Hopkins.
think so.
I saw an interview. I've never been able to find it again. Years ago, where he was talking about this very thing. Now, this is Sir Anthony Hopkins with 2 Academy Awards. Jack Lemmon used to say, every time I finish a movie, I'm convinced I'm never going to work again. Jack Lemmon is a legend. So Anthony Hopkins said, and I've always remembered this, and I've always used it, and it is a game changer, promise you. He said, that voice, I have it still. that really self-critical. We're our own harshest critics. And I remember the interviewer was like, really, you? And he's like, yes, but I've learned what I do is I don't resist it. I don't fight it. I don't try and shut it out. I don't listen to it. I let it have its say. I thank it for its input. And I say, now there's some nice toys over there in the corner that you can go play with, because it's a childish voice. I parent it. So let that negative voice, all right, have your say. Yes, I know, that was sucky. But we're going to move along. Okay, so thank you for your input. It will prevent any kind of tension, mental tension from building up. Don't think about the copy, right? If you have that voice, parent it, let it move along, and know that you got this, that you're worth listening to, that your audition is good. And when I'm going into a live audition and I walk into that room and it's the same guy, we all know each other. I get in front of a casting director. You just do this at home when you're just alone, but I get in front of that casting director and I walk in there like, oh, you guys should go home because this is mine. And, I'm not a dick about it. It's going on in my head, but I've got to get myself into rock star mode. And whatever your rock star mode is, I mean, for me, it's remembering, being on stage with a guitar when I'm a musician, and just that moment when I just owned it, But we all have those moments. Find yours. There was a moment where you were 10 feet tall. We all have those memories. Get there. Remember it. Remember what it felt like. And go into that audition with no doubt. Okay? Confidence. Confidence, here's the thing. Confidence is a choice. It's not something that has to, it will eventually descend upon you. I mean, sure, with experience, yeah, you'll gain confidence, but you can choose it. You can choose it. I can see, everybody here, you're ready to work. You're ready to work. So choose it. Just choose confidence. It's very, very simple. Yeah.
I appreciate you so much. Yes. Everyone, I'm the only link I'm dropping in the chat today is our private coaching link. If you have not used this the $25 off AMA code, then you should use it to book a session with James. If you already have, then I don't know, I think it's used up for you, but you could still click on that same link and request some time to get deep into these weeds with our beloved James Andrews. In the meantime, if you want to just drop some love in the chat, he is donating his time to us today to just be here and to share his experiences and stories and warm-ups and various forms of wisdom.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, we and I'll make sure that James receives them even as this Zoom closes. Yes, we appreciate James as a personal thank you from a friend. I really appreciate
it's a pleasure.
you.
I hope it's been useful. There's some really, really kind words and nice comments, and I thank you for that. And I hope everybody's gotten something out of it.
And and I want to say,
if only two things: masseter massage and rockstar. All right. Okay, find your inner rock star. You deserve it. Choose confidence.
I really appreciate masseter massage and rockstar as just a phrase to move forward with as the takeaway today. But yeah, I want to thank everyone in this group as well. Y'all are funny, y'all are cute, y'all are attractive in your Zoom squares, and you come with so much heart and energy and charisma. Voice actors being charismatic that's my jam. Yes, Bill Clark is fanning himself right now. But truly, it's very fun to share this time with you, and I appreciate you all. And internet friends, I feel like just get to know you and appreciate you all so much for this time. And James,
Yep.
we just, yeah, just all the love and gratitude to
Love you
you for
guys.
today.
Love you
Mwah.
guys.
We love you so much. And, you know, maybe David will be there. Maybe it's just me. Who knows? The next session is 2 weeks from now, which will be September 2nd. And appreciate you very much. Barry, Alexis, your hair is also really good. I should have told you that. Regina is also matching your backgrounds. You guys have the blurred backgrounds, which is good. My pal Tim, I'm so happy that you're here with us. Howard and I were both crying during one of your things. James, no big deal. No big deal. We're just crying. It's fine. It's whatever. Thursday. John Bellimer, that's my pal right there. I love seeing you every 2 weeks. So, my friends, I appreciate you from my heart. Greta, I'm glad you've made it. Micah made it. Micah's had a rough week, and Micah's here. So I just appreciate you all so much. Be well, be peaceful, and we'll see you. We'll see you 2 weeks from now. Mwah. Take care, James. You're the man. I almost cursed and I
It's a
didn't,
pleasure. Love
but
you guys.
he's the stuff. Okay,
Bye,
bye
everybody.
everyone.